Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the AI Monetization Podcast. I'm Binny Mathews, the co-founder of ProjectPro. We help companies accelerate their AI projects. We speak with AI leaders to understand what business outcomes companies are seeing with AI. Today, we have with us Shubhadip Roy. Shubhadip has over 18 years of experience working with Fortune 500 companies as a data science leader and expert thought partner. He's currently the principal director of GenAI initiatives at EPAM Systems, a leading AI-enabled transformation company with over 10,000 team members. There at EPAM, Shubhdeep focuses on the GenAI business of financial services, and he also co-leads CPG and the retail businesses in the UK and the EU region. Previously, Shubhadip was a senior director and global practice center of excellence lead for advanced analytics at Cervelo. And before that, he was head of MLOps, AI, and data head of machine learning engineering at Deloitte Consulting. Shubhadip, thank you for taking time to do this. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the intro.
Absolutely, yeah. Shubhadip, one of the things we are all curious about is you're out there talking to customers about AI and use cases, right? How do people start the conversation in terms of is it, oh, this technology is cool, let me do something with it, or this is the ROI I want, what can you do for me? Where do these conversations start and how do they go?
Yeah, no, great question to start with. Start the conversation. So, yeah, hello everyone. So, as you have heard from Vinay, that I've been in this industry for close to 18 plus years. So generative AI is something that we are talking about a lot, and that has probably shaken up the whole industry. However, I think if I look back my career back in 2006, when I started working for the industry, it was more of analytics, data mining, informatics. I think that sort of concept where it was more of push than pull. So we would come up with like solutions. We think of, okay, this is something that I have done in the college about predicting something using a logistic regression. How do I apply that into a real life use case for marketing or for predicting a fraudulent transaction, right? So it was back then. It was more of that, right? So it's not business coming with a problem and asking us to use AI to solve it. It was more of a collaboration between the business and the data practice to say that, okay, how do we leverage data to make more informed business decisions, right? So it was back then, that was that sort of a story. However, things have changed drastically in the last couple of years, right? With the technology like generative AI, where it is in your fingertips, you can really see the value that comes out from this technology much faster than traditional way of like building a model, gathering the data, training the model, putting into production, monitoring it, managing it. It used to take like probably 6 months, I would say, on an average, to have a good AI solution in production. So that has changed, right? So now when we start the conversation, most of the business leader comes with a particular use case in mind. That, okay, I'm running a 5,000 member customer service to manage claims or to manage customer requests. So how do I optimize that workforce? How do I optimize some of the workload, which is much more repeatable? How do I empower my existing customer service agents with Gen AI agents, where they will be able to understand customer needs, customer preference much better, so that they can solve the problem much faster than traditional way. So how do I reduce the time in SLA? So I think that conversation, that because it has now become much more useful, and business leaders have those use cases in mind, the conversation has started becoming a bit more business driven than where it's like data pushing a solution back to the business. So that has changed, I would say. So most of the clients that we work with have come with some sort of an expectation. Either, I think, unfortunately, at this very first instance, it's more about cost reduction. So, okay, how do I reduce my cost, whether it's operational cost, whether it's other cost? So how do I reduce that using this technology? So obviously that comes into automation of some of the repeatable processes. But there are some organizations, some industries, especially around life sciences, where they are also coming back with some questions about innovation, right? So how do
Yeah.
I come up with a new chemical or a new drug using the existing mixture? What is the right recipe for that? So I think those use cases are also coming through. So
Mhm.
I would say that with this technology being in this in the horizon for the last couple of years, it has become more business led. So business coming with an idea that, okay, how do we leverage this technology, some of the use cases, and then let's get engaged, start with a proof of concept, build an MVP, and then try to build a product get solution.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And in some of these use cases you mentioned, Shubhadip, like customer support and retail and all that, right? Many of these companies are already using some tool for customer support internally, and arguably some of those tools are introducing their own AI features and things like that. How
Correct.
do clients decide, do I want to go with that AI feature that tool is giving me, or do I want to custom build something for myself from scratch? How is that decision usually made?
So again, I mean, it will depend on the context. I think
Mm,
we are getting requests from both side of the story that you said, right?
mm,
So a lot of organizations. So I'll give you a real life example. So currently we
yeah.
are working with one of the insurance company.
Mm,
So they have got into Salesforce. So
mm,
they are doing a finance and service cloud migration. So they are trying to enable Einstein
mm,
to in their workflow to ensure that how do we leverage AI for whether it's about case triaging or case summary or next best action sort of use cases. And obviously you have your already existing framework like Einstein can unlock some of those capability, and
mhm,
that's where probably a lot of organization will come to like service provider like us, saying
mhm,
that, okay, how do we enable that and create value in those domain.
mhm,
That's one use case, one side of the story. But the other side of the story, where obviously the technology is taking a leap in that direction, and most of the like probably hyperscalers like Google, Amazon, Azure, they're coming up with their new techniques, they're enabling enabling their customers with
mhm.
new features. However, I think because the business is also very diverse
Yeah.
in some sort, right? So
Mhm,
and the regulations are different, the data, the way they structure the data are different, the customer base are different. So a lot of cases also we are doing custom build of the solutions, right?
mm,
So end to end, and sometimes it's much cheaper to do that
mm,
because
mm.
obviously you have a lot of open source like so LangChain and like llamas, so which are like you do not need to pay a lot to get those solutions. So
Yeah.
building those solutions, it becomes much cheaper to
Mhm,
build. So at least in my opinion, it's happening both the sides. So if you are already in that journey, migration journey with a vendor partner, with a like large vendor partner, obviously a lot of people will try to unlock those features using like service provider unlocking
mhm.
that. But there is also a lot of requests coming in from the players where they would like to build a custom built solution where they would be in control of the
Yeah.
consumptions, about the
Mhm,
usage, about the security, privacy, everything. So
mhm.
that we see that wave also coming in.
Okay, understood. The next thing I'm curious about is kind of the area that you focus on, which is financial services, which is, outside of financial services, if we look at broadly Gen AI, the largest applications seem to be code generation with copilots, and the second one is probably, like you mentioned, customer support, copywriting, and things like that. Now, could you help us understand within financial services, what are the largest use cases that cut across all of these verticals inside financial services?
Yeah, so again, I will probably classify them into three categories, right? So
Mhm,
number one, I would say that cost optimization, cost out.
mhm,
So with efficiency gain in terms of automating some tasks, which probably can be automated. The second use case, second area I would say is the innovation side of things. So how do I come up with a new customer segment, or how do I come up with a new product that would
mhm,
be useful for my customer, right? So
mhm.
that's the second area. And the third area is the empowerment, right? So what you were saying, that how do I empower my own employee base with this technology,
Mhm.
whether they can be more efficient in the way they were writing up their code. So you do not need a like 100 member team to build engineering pipelines. Probably
Mhm.
I need 10 or 20, and then rest is digital FTs. So that's also happening. So I would classify them into those three categories. I see that if I have to just distribute the pure by number of requests that we are getting from these three categories, I think probably 50% of this are coming from that cost reduction use cases, whether it's for customer services, whether it's from some other like claims management, underwriting. I think those are the use cases where we are getting a lot of requests. The second area, I would probably around 30 to 40% would be around empowerment within like employee empowerment, whether creating an internal chatbot for knowledge management. So we are doing a lot of work for some of the financial services where we are enabling their legal practices, their legal team, their risk regulators to be accustomed with all the different various risk and regulations that are coming in, right? So in the different regions. So creating a simple chatbot, a chat interface where they can be up to date with the latest trend in new regulations, right? So that's a lot of use cases that we're empowering your employees with this technology to do their work much faster, better, more efficiently. And then probably another rest of the 10 to 20% comes in from the innovation side of things, which is I am hoping that will that will increase next year. But I think that's how I would say that's where the biggest use cases still are from that cost optimization domain.
Got it. And in the cost optimization domain, you specifically mentioned things like underwriting and claims processing, which are pretty high value use cases. Best practices to take a POC into production in those areas. Do you have any guidance on that?
Let's keep GenAI on the side for the time being. I think it's for any innovation, right? So whenever we are trying to disrupt the industry with a new product or a new service or a new solution, I think it's always best approach is to take small step towards rather than do a big bang release. Sometimes that might work. I think there are number of examples where we can say that, okay, if you wait for the right moment and launch a product like the iPhone, right? So which probably they didn't do it incrementally. They come up with the product once after that they're done enough research. But I think most of the solutions that we have seen is that take the small steps, right? So build a prototype, test it, get feedback, improve it, build an MVP, then go to scale, right? So it's always that stepwise approach had made more impact and a solution which is more sustainable, I would say. So and similar with GenAI solutions as well, right? So again, I'll go back to an example where we are building an underwriting solutions for one of the largest insurance provider. So the approach that we are taking, and again, and this underwriting provider, so the solution that we are building is AI-assisted human-led solution, underwriting workbench, where you are getting incoming emails from your customers for a particular underwriting request. So the GenAI technology is analyzing those email attachments, the critical files that they are providing, scanning it through, identifying the critical entities that an underwriter would utilize to further come up with a price quotation, and then process it further, right? So the way the approach that we have taken is, so we are starting with like a proof of concept first of all, to see whether the technology is good enough to really support a use case like that, right? So you have some data, you have the prompt. How can I really get a solution which is probably 70-80% accurate? After that, once we are confident enough, and because of this technology is so you do not need to wait for the model to train, right? So it's the already pre-trained model. You are just enabling it, right? So in a week's time, you can do that prototype and come up with like a conclusion of okay, whether it's going to work or not. And then what we are doing currently is an MVP solution where we have selected a certain business units, like not the entire organization, but a certain business unit will be exposed to the solution that we have built, which will be an MVP. And for a month, we will start gathering feedback that whether it has helped. Are we getting hallucination in the model? Are you getting an adequate precision, recall in the solutions that we have built? Because it's again, you need to really ground it with the truth that is out there to ensure that the solution is up to the mark, right? And it's a good quality. So that MVP solution will be observed for a month. After that, it will go into production. And once it goes into production, then it comes in with the machinery of MLOps capabilities like model monitoring, management, the pipelines, the version control, all of those things comes in. So for me, I think most of the successful project has taken that approach. So from starting with a proof of concept to an MVP to then to scale solution has always worked best. I would say for especially a solution like which is driven by data and AI, where human in the loop is extremely important. Getting that feedback, fine tuning the model, making sure that we have considered the limitations of the model, and then you're launching it to or exposing it to your wider customer base has always worked.
Okay. Okay. And when you're implementing for something like an underwriting use case for an insurance company, how often is it that one of the popular LLM models, like let's say one of the GPTs by OpenAI or Microsoft, that is sufficient? Or how often do you have to go to one of these, an obscure, very specific model? Or maybe you're taking a GPT and fine-tuning it for the company's proprietary data. Roughly, where do the use cases split in these buckets?
Yeah, I mean, it's all depends on the use case. Unfortunately, like there's no one one silver bullet for this. I have seen, like I've personally been doing multiple instances, right? So there's one project where we are running where we are benchmarking against all models out there, right? So it's like GPT, Anthropic, and then identify and then selecting the best model possible. And these are the use cases where you probably have a bit more luxury in terms of budget. So client is willing to get the best result rather than optimizing the cost. However, similar instance, there's one industry that we are working with, which is highly regulated, and there was an issue with data residency. So whether if I'm using OpenAI, if I'm running the prompt, is that data going out of the country, right? So there was a restriction for the client, and client was not very comfortable using that. So for that, we have to use a open source model like Llama, right? So which we will install locally and then run it, right? So and then obviously there is another instance where we get a model accuracy to up to a certain level, but then the model deteriorates, and then we start doing fine tuning. We try to incorporate like a bit more pre-processing, right? So rather than using only LLM to get the answer, can I leverage also some traditional analytics, traditional machine learning models powered with GenAI to get a better model, right? So a lot of pre-processing before we hit the GenAI, the prompts is something that is also being worked upon. So I would say it's a mixture of all of these four things. Personally, obviously, if I look at the quality, I think OpenAI still are the best in terms of the quality of output for O especially. It's been outperforming most of the other models, but again, it varies use case by use cases.
Got it. Okay. And slightly switching tracks here, which is as a leader who was kind of talking to clients to help them with AI transformations, right? What are your top problems, your burning problems that you wish somebody solved for you?
So it's a good question. So right. So and it's something that is something that I've learned. So probably 5-6 years ago, the discussion was that, okay, these are the things that you should not do, right? So it's all about like, what are the things that telling the business that these are the things that you should not do, right? So and helping them asking the right questions. Fortunately, I think over the course of time, things have changed, and now business is asking you ask the right question. Now we are helping them that, okay, what are the things are the critical factor for you to be successful in this journey? Because again, we are hedging onto a solution, at least to a certain extent, where business would not have full control. So you have to rely on your data that you're capturing. You need to rely on the technology team to really have that system up and running. You have that resilience, the trust in your IT infrastructure for that solution to be up and running. And then obviously, end of the day, you have to assume that the impact it will make to your end customer is optimal, like it proves the value. So few other things that I always suggest to the client, and so it always starts with that business ownership. So if you are venturing into that world, the business ownership of that solution, whether it's fraud detection, whether it's cross-sell, upsell, marketing use cases, whether it's pricing, the business owner of that solution always has to be from the business. So we can't ask a data person to own the product. So that's probably one of the suggestion that we always provide to the customer, that okay, let's have the business ownership in your side. The second thing is about the change management, right? So it comes with that adoption of that solution. So always consider that end of the day, the solution will be used by the business. So they have to change the way they do the work, right? So it's not going to be traditional way of working. So things will change because of your solution. Whether it will make it life easier or harder, that's a different question. But at least you need to appreciate the fact that it's going to impact your ways of working, the way you do your work on a day-to-day basis will impact because of the solution. So making sure that you are aware of that and you're educating your workforce with those limitations of AI or nuances of those AIs, so they are aware of that. And the third thing I would say is about the governance, right? So and impact assessment of the whole solution. So sometimes the models takes time to give you the optimal result, right? So sometimes you probably would not get the ROI like right after the solution is being live. It takes time to adopt and get the maximum. So you have to have that patience. But I would not say that that means that you keep a blind eye to the solution for months. You need to measure it as periodic as possible, whether it's weekly, daily, about its performance, about its resilience, about its impact on your real customer, and then feedback to that to the data team saying that okay, this week your result helped, the next week didn't help, right? So that feedback is the gold dust that can change the model, that can change the solution drastically. So I think those are the 3-4 things that probably I would say always tell this business to keep in mind when whenever they are getting into this journey.
Got it. While you're kind of keeping these things in mind, right? How much of a challenge is skilling, reskilling, upskilling as part of this whole journey, either on your side or on the client side?
Yeah, that's again great question. So it's about the change management, right? So which I was talking about. So reskilling from the business side, obviously they need to know about certain concept, right? So especially with the large language model, which is, I mean, I would say it has been diluted to a certain extent in terms of its complexity, that people has the confidence that okay, yeah, I can work it around. I can create like a nice prompt to get my answer. So I think that is out there, which is easy thing, but still there are nuances. There are things that you can need to understand about hallucination, about things that you cannot, the ground truth you need to validate, right? So I think all those aspects is there that you need to have that continuous learning about the drawbacks and the limitations of the technology. You need to be aware of that. On the other side of the world, like when you are talking about the skill and the change in the skill metrics, right? So that we see within the data practice are also very interesting, because I think back in the days, right? So you have a data scientist, a data engineer, probably doing all the work. But then we have the concept of ML ops. We started thinking of ML engineers, right, into the mix. Now we have a prompt engineer into the mix. So, and that means that, does it mean that, okay, I'm going to have like a guy who is a prompt engineer from a college? Probably I would not, right? So I need to get like somebody who is a data scientist, has a concept, certain understanding, and then I need to train that individual over a course of time to become a very good prompt engineer. And the other way around, right? So a data scientist, how do I equip that person to become a good ML engineer too? And all of those things come together, give you the final solution. So a lot of skilling, upskilling is also needs to happen in the data practice side of things, which probably I would say is the most challenging thing. I think the educational system is also evolving in this. Like I haven't seen like a really great course which teaches you great ML architecture or AI architecture on RAG applications. You see some videos, we see some things, but it's not being taught in an educational institute for a number of months or years. That I would say this is the benchmark, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where organizations are also being very inclusive in terms of investing in their workforce. Like at
Yeah.
EPAM, we do a lot of these courses, build those courses, share our knowledge in different ways. That okay, it's something that we call it tribal knowledge, right? So
Yeah.
I faced this problem in one of my client. Now I solved it using this. How do I share that knowledge with someone else, and create like a tribe who are well versed with this similar problem and sharing it with each other. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of things are happening on the go, but I think this is like a area that needs to massively. So we need to really focus on this area, that
Yeah.
upskilling of workforce, uh, which I think we are underplaying at this moment. So we are not spending enough time and effort to upskill either the data practice to be a better prompt engineer or interact with the technology better
Mm-hmm.
with a full architectural view.
Yeah.
And at the other side of the world, like the business user are also not being well educated about the limitations, about the challenges, or about the some of the things that they need to consider uh, before applying it for a real life use case. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say this is like a massive area that I'm hoping that probably next year would become very important for most of the organizations.
Okay. And since you kind of spoke about prompt engineering a couple of times, whenever we work on AI projects, we have noticed that the real magic comes when the right prompts are provided to unlock what the model can do for you. So when you look at AI projects being implemented, are you seeing an entire new job role of people whose only job is to write good prompts, or are current data scientists and ML engineers expected to do that? How's that role given out?
So I would say that I don't think that we need like a new job role or new course needs to be taught about prompt engineering, because
Yeah,
prompt engineering is all about being intuitive, right? Being
correct.
analytical, the way you are asking the question. You need to understand certain aspects of the architecture, that how it works. So
Yeah,
how a system prompt works versus like a regular prompt,
yeah.
how that works. I think that is important for
Hmm.
for individuals to know.
Hmm.
But those are like, I think, simpler concept. uh, what I think I am propagating a lot within our client solutions, which are quite successful, is is from the prompt. The prompts are basically business domain knowledge, right? So if we are thinking of the use case that I was talking about earlier, it's about currently someone is doing a job manually. Maybe a
Hmm.
business analyst is doing a particular job manually, whether it's about triaging an email case, or probably uh, or processing an underwriting claim. Currently, a human is going through those the data or the
Yeah.
request
Hmm.
minutely, then coming up with their business domain knowledge to take an action, right? So what we are trying to do that, okay, whatever that business domain knowledge that individual has is now being replaced by a prompt, which
Yeah.
is more intuitive, which is more straightforward. So
Hmm.
what we are trying to do is like the prompt should be a reflection of the business domain knowledge of the business analyst. So the
Right.
business person should document all of their nuances, the things that they're looking at into a business glossary, and my prompt would just go to that business glossary, identifying contextual chunk of information that they need to consider from that business glossary, and then process the prompt. Rather
Yeah.
than asking a data scientist to do the job of a business analyst, we are we are enabling that by empowering the business analyst using a business glossary, provide their mental map about their domain knowledge, their expertise, and then use the prompt to using that business glossary data to have better prompt. I think that has really helped a lot in terms of getting better result,
Yeah.
and also explainability of the things, like, so how do I explain that why I have taken this decision,
Hmm.
because the business analyst has defined it as a rule in the business glossary, right? So
Hmm.
incorporating that becomes much easier. So I would say that I don't think that we need to have a new like skill sets coming in. I think obviously it will become very important
Yeah.
how well you write a prompt, but I think any individuals who's analytical, who's has logical reasoning, good at logical reasoning, can write up a nice prompt. Obviously, underlying assumption is like they have some understanding of
Makes
the
sense.
underlying architecture, so that
The
should be
model as well.
fine.
Sure. Makes sense. And earlier in the conversation, you mentioned how knowledge management use cases, right? And knowledge management is a problem that pretty much every large company has, and it's a problem that the industry has been trying to solve for 20, 30 years right now. Do you think knowledge management is seeing a resurgence right now because of what AI can do? Could you speak a little more about what you're seeing there? And
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Mhm.
this is probably one of the easiest use case that we have seen, right? So,
Okay.
uh, summarizing thing, uh, then also looking at searching, semantic search, right? So it's
Hmm.
probably would be the greatest example. So,
Hmm.
uh, so we keep talking about GenAI as a new thing that OpenAI did, but like if you think of like Google search, right? So it used to predict your search, right? So if you're searching something, it will used to give you suggestions about what other people are asking. So that's almost like a contextual search of based on what you are asking at the very beginning. So I think it was there. Now the way we are leveraging this technology for knowledge management are multiple use cases, right? So one where at EPAM, we have created like our internal agents, so which basically helps you to navigate through different HR policies. So if you are
Hmm.
booking a, so see, I was booking a flight to the US a couple of weeks ago. I
Hmm.
was going to a particular city. I wanted to understand about the best hotels out there. I wanted to understand that okay, what are the EPAM permitted based on my level and all, like what are the
Hmm.
permit level in terms of the hotel that I can book. So I was all everything was in. Earlier, probably I had to go to a forum or probably have to ask HR to give that answer. So right now I can interact with a chatbot who can
Hmm.
do that search, give me the output in a much more summarized way. So that
Hmm.
is something that we are leveraging. So and because of this, the technology is such a way, it's such a nice way it can bring in those contextual information.
Hmm.
We see very very powerful impact on that, right? So
Hmm.
and not only just the use case that I talked about HR policies and others, but also the legal side of things. So a lot of legal companies like are copywriting, infringement, and that sort of side of the things. They
Hmm.
are also leveraging this technology to identify that okay, if I am writing a particular copy, is it is it been copyrighted already?
Hmm.
Is there a something a document already exist similar to the style and
Hmm.
the way we are writing, right? So whether for a marketing communication or something. So
Hmm.
that is also being enabled because again, it's those are the easy use case
Yeah.
of semantic search and also. So that's I would say that knowledge management becoming probably the easiest use case that you can if you're starting with this technology and which has a big impact I would say which saves a lot of time
Yeah.
which gives you better result better outcome more efficiently.
Mhm. Got it. And staying with your use cases, Shubhadip, I've kind of a two-part question, which is we spoke about underwriting, we spoke about knowledge management. Is there another use case in financial services or something else that you think it's important to spend time to talk about? That's one question. The second question is there a use case that it's not getting too much attention right now, but will have a significant impact in the next, 4 or 5 years using AI that you have always thought it's going to unlock. So these two things would be helpful to understand.
Yeah, so I think probably the first one that the first part of the question that probably another use case that I can think of, again staying with the insurance industry, is also on the on the claims optimization side of things, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you are interacting with so we have a solution which basically gives you a interface. So suppose you have a car insurance and you run into some problem or accident.
Hmm.
How do we raise a claim using a chatbot
Yeah.
by just uploading some of the pictures of your car, right?
Yeah.
So, and that will give you like the policy cover. So all you have to do is provide your policy number, probably your name, your unique identifier, and then you upload some of the pictures, uh, a brief description of the accident where it happened, and then the AI assisted bot will basically process your claim based on your policy cover that okay is it covered if you have damaged your bumper does it cover by your policy it has the ability to do all of those matching and then raise a claim for you given it has all the information. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, it will ask you for more further information, and you have the journey accordingly, right? So
Yeah.
so that's another great use case that we see, which is, again, I mean, it's drastically reducing the existing cost for each claim processing,
Yeah.
uh, and massive efficiency gain, and massive ROI for that claims use case, we've been seeing in the insurance industry.
Okay.
Uh, Other than that, financial services, I think there are a few areas that are probably, because the success of traditional machine learning AI models, like in terms of marketing, next best action, I think those are the one that probably will take time to evolve. So
Yeah.
a lot of use cases we see on the so predict, like the cross sell upsell probably, or next best action is not the critical one, but content generation, right? So how do I create a personalized campaign very really fast for my retail customers using this technology? So we see there are a lot of content generation happening based on your preferred brand, preferred style, etc. Right? So you're creating that. So we are doing a lot of virtual try on. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're for retail companies, whether you're trying a new lipstick brand, how do we help you choose the right color, or right palette? So we are doing a lot of work in that area. Uh, I think that's probably is probably to a certain extent will be applicable to some of the financial services use cases, especially around marketing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so loyalty marketing, so providing those marketing content use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer duty is another one. So as you can imagine, right? So this consumer duty, again, a regulatory compliance coming in. So how do I, when I'm writing a copy as a marketing executive, how do I write it based on the customers that I'm talking to, whether I'm talking to the client with a with a language which they understand, right? So not
Yeah.
creating a very difficult language that a customer, a regular customer, probably who has not gone through a college degree, would not understand. And so how do I change the tone of voice? How do I understand the reading edge of the customer? And based on that, that consumer duty tells you all of those things, right? So how do I fine tune my communication with my customers, whether it's about providing with a marketing offer, whether or sending a penalty notice, or sending some other product information. Uh, so how do we fine tune that? So that's another area I think has not been explored enough. I think we
Mm-hmm.
see few organizations that are doing it. Fraud detection, another big use case,
Mm-hmm.
where we probably would see more and more of this application of this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, empowering the risk analysts who are writing up these heuristic rules manually for detecting fraud. How
Yeah.
do we give them more power to write those rules much faster and
Mm-hmm.
execute it more faster? I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another area I would say that we would see a lot of use cases happening next year.
Okay. Okay. No, that's very helpful roundup of use cases on what we can expect. And finally, Shubhadip, how do you stay in touch? I mean, there's so much happening in your field every day. What are your go-to sources to stay in touch?
So that's a good question. So I think probably some of the things would be, yeah, like podcasts like this, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
always have some podcast in my Spotify. It's always I try to listen when I'm commuting.
Okay.
So I think that's a good source of information. And the best part is, like, in this mission, I think everyone is willing to share.
Yeah.
I think it's not like people will try to keep that as a trade secret and not
Yeah.
sharing okay, how we are solving the problem. Everyone is willing to share their experience, because that's how you would learn. So that's something that, so talking to a lot of like-minded people, but that doesn't mean that I'm just talking to the data scientists, I'm talking to the ML engineers, but I'm also talking to the business, right? So I'm
Yeah.
talking to the CFOs, I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to the CTOs, that
Yeah.
okay, what you guys are thinking, right? What are they thinking? Because all of these individuals are smart individuals, right? So
Yeah.
so I think that's something is I'm learning probably 70 or 80% of the learning is coming just by talking to people,
Yeah.
by talking about this uh, on a day-to-day basis, right? So the other source is obviously the research that you do, right? So whether it's
Mm-hmm.
about on a day-to-day basis, you face a problem, right? So then you start digging into it a bit more. So whether it's then you find a YouTube video, or you probably are following a page for Databricks or Salesforce, they come up with a
Yeah.
video where you see an interaction or a nice thing. So that's another source, whether that you see, keep seeing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the technology, like like generative AI, whether you're using Perplexity or .ai, or
Yeah.
whether you're using ChatGPT, that also gives you a lot of information about the trend, about what's going to come next.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say, we do have strong partnership with the educational institute.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, so they are doing a lot of cutting edge research,
Hmm.
which might not be straight away, you cannot apply it into the industry, but
Yeah.
that gives you some sort of a window of opportunity in terms of the future, right? So what are the
Hmm.
things that we are thinking of? Am I expecting a new transformer architecture, a better, a non-greedy one in the future? So
Yeah.
those researchers are happening. So being in touch with those educational institutes and research institutes, I think, are also critical thing. So I think all those three things has helped me immensely in the last probably few years to
Hmm.
be on top of the top of the game in this space, because it's, yeah, as you were saying, it's changing rapidly.
Okay. Okay. That is super helpful. And I have one more question, which is from a career guidance perspective, right? What are the things that have served you well to kind of go from where you started early in your career to, running AI at EPAM and advising customers? What are the things that have worked out for you that others could follow?
Oh, that's again a very good question. So I think, first of all, I think for me, I think it's always helped me to be passionate about what I'm doing, right? So liking
Mm,
the work that I'm doing. So
mm,
end of the day, if I find the what I'm doing is very repetitive, or like, then it becomes a problem. So it's always being very passionate about, even if I'm doing a research on a new type of data that I have to source. So I think that has always been a driving factor. So whatever I'm doing, or like building a very interesting model, or trying to reduce bias in a model, have that passion to solve that problem. So
mhm,
that always, you need to consider that, right? So that if you're an individual that are joining this industry, or in this industry getting into the next level of leadership, uh,
mhm.
you need to be passionate about what you do. That trigger, or that to better, to more, to do dig deep, and get better results, outcome every time. So that passion is a critical thing.
Mhm,
The second thing I would say, that you need to have some sort of a, especially in this field of AI, you need to have some domain knowledge.
mhm,
Now, domain knowledge can come from two sides, right? So one would be the business domain. So to
mhm.
be successful, you need to figure out, like, maybe in beginning of your career, formative career, you can learn a lot of different things, but
Yeah.
eventually you probably need to know a particular industry or a particular industry problem, whether
Mhm.
it's finance, whether it's retail, whether it's civil. Uh, but you need to have some sort of domain knowledge to
Right.
know how the business works.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is also your technical knowledge, right? So, and you don't need to be like jack of all trade, but some of the foundation, like fundamental concepts of probability, or distribution theory, or or simply like how law of large number works, right? So some of those concepts, if you know, then it becomes much easier for you to identify that, okay, how do I really solve a real life business problem?
Mhm.
So I would say that staying in touch with those areas are very important. And then last one I would say is being very open minded and talking to people, right? So this is something that you cannot solve on your own. You
Mm.
need a team. You need to enable. You do not need to worry about what you are doing would be copied by somebody, or like, you need to share your knowledge to gain more knowledge. So it's
Yeah.
very, very important for you to build that network of individuals uh, that you really trust, where you can
Mm.
share ideas, absorb, empower at the same time, right? So that's very, very important. So having that network, talking to people, whether virtually, or being in office, or being in a cafe, is very, very important. I would say that gives you that edge over all the other things. So you may be a really great theoretical statistician, but if you haven't seen the real world problem, and if you do not have a network of individuals who can challenge you in those some of these aspects, then probably
Yeah.
you're not going to get the best impact, or you will not do justice to the whole community, I would say. So it's always great to share your knowledge, and at the same time also be open to absorb, and empower yourself as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's very, very well said and incredibly helpful to all of us. On that note, thank you so much, Shubhadip. This has been super helpful. Really appreciate you taking time to do this.
Yeah, likewise. I think it's really, really nice talking to you, and I'm really happy that someone like you and your organizations are pushing it through. So, yeah, thanks a lot for having me here.
Thank you.